Sun was setting over Sir 7 when little Park found the flower. It was purple with golden spots, and it glowed softly in the fading light. She had never seen anything like it before. Her mother would love this for her research. 7 years old, she had big curious eyes and hair that her father always tied in two small braids. Today she had walked a little too far from the colony. She knew the rules: stay close, stay safe. But the forest was so beautiful, and she was collecting samples for her school project. Knelt down and took out her small container. Her fingers touched the soft petals of the flower. It felt warm, like it was alive in a different way than normal plants. That was when she heard the sound. It was a low hum like a giant insect. The trees behind her moved, but there was no wind, stood up slowly. Her heart began to beat faster. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. Creatures came out of the shadows like nightmares made real. They were tall, taller than her father. Their skin was dark green and covered in scales. Their eyes were yellow with black slits like snakes. They walked on two legs but moved like hunters, smooth and silent. Scream. One of them grabbed her before she could run. Its claws were cold and hard around her arm. She kicked and fought, but she was small and they were strong. One of them made a sound that might have been loud. Then everything went dark. The calling alarm began to ring 20 minutes later. Park was in his workshop when he heard it. His hands stopped moving. His blood went cold. He knew, even before anyone told him, he knew something had happened to his daughter. And he ran faster than he had run in years. His legs burned and his lungs screamed, but he did not stop. Other colonists were running too, shy and confused, but only had one thought in his mind. Where was? Found Li Jin at the edge of the forest. Jin was the colony's security chief. He was also Sol's friend. They had fought together in the war many years ago. Now they grew vegetables and raised children. But the look on Jin's face told that the peaceful days were over. He held something in his hand. It was a sample container, the one with the little star sticker she had put on it herself. Legs stopped working. He fell to his knees in the dirt. He picked up the container with shaking hands. It was still warm from her touch. On him, the security team was examining the ground. There were marks in the soil, deep claw marks, and drag marks leading toward a clearing where the grass was burned in a perfect circle. Ship had landed here, and then it had left. 5 moments later, she was mother. She studied alien life forms for the colony. When she saw the claw marks, her face went white. Knelt down and looked closely. Her science mind was working even as her mother's heart was breaking. She whispered. The word came out like poison. He looked at her. Are you sure? I've studied their biology for years. These claw patterns facing the depth. This is, she stood up, her hands trembling. They are hunters. They travel the galaxy taking creatures from different worlds, for sport, for trade, for... She could not finish the sentence. But up slowly, his face had changed. The soft farmer was gone. In his plate was something else, something that Jin remembered from the war, something dangerous. I took my daughter, said. His voice was quiet, too quiet. Jin said carefully, we need to contact the colonial authorities. We need to follow power channels. We need. They took my daughter. Words hung in the air like a death sentence. Not for the creatures who had made the worst mistake of their lives. Above the planet, the ship rose through the clouds and entered the darkness of space. Its name was Fang of Night, and its captain was called. He was old for his kind, with scars across his face from many hunts. He had taken prey from 40 different worlds. He had never failed. Stood in the holding area now, looking at his catch. The small human child was awake. She sat in the corner of her cell, her knees pulled up to her chest, but she was not crying. She was watching him. His head, that was unusual. Most prey screamed. Most prey begged. This one just stared at him with those strange round eyes. The second man stood beside him, was younger, more cautious. He had studied many species before hunting them. He believed in knowing your prey. Captain said quietly, perhaps we should return the one. The sound of disgust. Return it? Why? Look at it. Soft skin. No claws, no fangs, no venom. Humans are the weakest species we have ever taken. They are perfect prey. I've read about them, said. They are not like other soft species. They are children who play with machines, interrupted. They build things because they cannot hunt. They make tools because they have no natural weapons. They are prey, nothing more. Inside her cell listened. She did not understand their language, but she understood their tone. They thought she was weak. They thought she was helpless. Remembered something her father once told her. He had held her on his lap and pointed at the stars. He had said, other creatures might not understand us. They might think we're soft. They might think we're easy to hurt, but remember this. Humans survived ice ages. We survived predators bigger than houses. We survived wars and plagues and disasters that should have ended us. We are still here because we never give up, and we never leave our family behind. Never. With her eyes, she looked around her cell. She began to memorize everything she could see. The guards, the doors, the patterns of light on the walls. Did not know how, she did not know when, but she knew one thing with perfect certainty. Her father was coming. And after it was taken, Park did not sleep. He sat in his daughter's room holding her favorite stuffed animal. It was a small bear with one missing eye. She had named it Brave. She had slept with it every night since she was 3 years old. I found him there when the sun came up. She did not speak. She simply sat beside him and held his hand. They stayed like that for a long time, two parents with a hole in their hearts where their child should be. Grief would not save, they both knew this. First, I have been trying movements for years as part of my research. They follow patterns. They have favorite hunting routes and trading posts. If we can access the old military databases, I might be able to predict where they're going. Looked at her, his eyes were red but focused. Can you do it? Need help? I need people with access to classified information. I need ships, I need soldiers. She paused. I need you to become who you used to be. Talked about his past in many years. Before he was a farmer, before he grew vegetables and coached children's sports teams, he had been something else. He had been a military engineer. He had built weapons that could crack open lands. He had designed ships that moved like ghosts through any territory. He had been very good at war. He had left that life behind when he was born. He had promised himself he would never go back. But promises made in peace do not survive when your child is stolen. We'll make some calls, he said quietly. At noon, the visitors started arriving. First was Li Jin, who brought his old security files and a kit of weapons he had kept hidden in his basement. The second was a woman named, who had been a communications officer in the war. She could intercept and decode almost any alien signal. The third was a quiet farmer named, who lived alone at the edge of the colony. Nobody knew much about him. He kept to himself. When walked in his house, Jin stood up straight and saluted, waved him down with a tired smile. Forces, Jin explained to. One of the best, I thought he was dead. Wanted to be, he said simply, but it seems retirement is over. Big surprise came in the evening. A shuttle landed outside the colony and an old man stepped out. He walked with a cane, but his back was straight and his eyes were sharp. His name was Wu, and he had been an admiral in the human fleet. He had won battles that were now taught in military schools across human space. Retired 5 years ago to grow roses and write poetry. Now he stood in a small living room, surrounded by farmers and shopkeepers who were slowly revealing themselves to be much more than they appeared. Received your message, Admiral Sedu. I made some calls of my own. 3 ships are being prepared as we speak. Old warships that were supposed to be scrapped. Their crews volunteered within an hour of hearing what happened. Something in his chest, it was not who exactly. It was something harder, something colder, purpose. Why, he asked, why would strangers risk their lives for my daughter? Admiral smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because she's not just your daughter, she's a human child. And if we let aliens take our children without consequence, we invite every predator in the galaxy to try their luck. This is not just a rescue mission, this is a message. Across the room was working on her computer, sat beside her, headphones on, listening to intercepted communications, suddenly held up her hand. Have them, he said. The ship that took, it is called Fang of Night. It is heading toward trading space along Route 7. At their current speed, they will reach the border in 6 days. How fast can our ship move? Asked. Admiral calculated quickly. If we leave within 12 hours, we can intercept them in 4 days, but it will be close, and we will be in hostile territory. We leave in 12 hours, said. There was no discussion, there was no debate. And while far away in the cold darks of space was learning. He had been on the ship for almost 2 days now. She had stopped crying after the first hour. Crying did not help. Instead, she watched. She listened. She remembered. Cell was next to other cells holding other creatures. Most of them were afraid. They huddled in corners and made sad sound. But there was one small creature who was different. It was round and soft, with big dark eyes and fur the color of clouds. Its name, she learned through simple gestures, was Pip. It had been taken from a peaceful world. Its species had no weapons, no fires, no way to resist. Pip expected to die. All of its kind expected to die when they took them. I told Pip something different. People are coming, she whispered through the bars. They will save us, they will save everyone. Did not understand her words, but it understood her tone. For the first time since its capture, something like hope flickered in its big dark eyes. Did her work? She memorized when the guards changed shifts. She counted their footsteps. She noticed which doors made sounds and which did not. She was 7 years old and she was preparing for war in her own small way. One day, a guard came too close to her cell. He was mocking her, making sounds that were probably insults. He reached through the bars to poke her with a claw. Bit him. Bit down as hard as she could, and she did not let go. The guard screamed and pulled back. Green blood dripped from his hand. Other guards came running. Was pressed against the back of her cell, but she did not look afraid. She looked fierce. Came to see what had happened. He stared at the small human child with new eyes. Why did you do that? He demanded. You cannot win, you cannot escape. Why do you fight? Not understand his words, but she understood his confusion, and she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile her father made when he talked about the old days. It was a smile that said, you have no idea what is coming. Watched from the shadows, his scales had gone pale. And he said quietly, I think we have made a mistake. Not answer. For the first time in his long life, he was not sure. The 3 human ships moved through space like wolves chasing a wounded deer. They were old ships, yes. Their paint was faded and their hulls bore scars from ancient battle. But their engines burned hot and their weapons were ready. And their crews had not forgotten how to hunt. The first ship was called the Hammer. It was a heavy cruiser built for direct combat. Admiral Wu commanded it from the bridge, but everyone knew that Park was the true heart of the mission. He stood at the observation window for hours, staring at the stars, counting the minutes until he could hold his daughter again. The second ship was Silent Wake. It was smaller, faster, built for stealth. Legion commanded the infiltrating team aboard it. 12 soldiers, all volunteers, all with nothing to lose and everything to prove. They trained every day in the ship's cargo bay, practicing close combat and rescue operations. The third ship was called Duty's Edge. It was the oldest of the 3, a veteran of wars that most people had forgotten. Its crew was small but experienced. They knew these ships better than they knew their own families. The second day of the chase, intercepted a communication. The enemy had noticed them. No, we are following, she reported. But they do not seem worried. They think we are just making noise. They think we will turn back when we reach the border of territory. Admiral laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Let them think that. Surprise is a weapon too. The third day, they caught up to the ship at a refueling station. The station flowed in empty space, ugly metal structure where ships could stop and rest. The Fang of Night was docked there, taking on supplies. Humans did not wait. The Hammer fired first. Torpedo crossed the distance and struck the ship's secondary engine. Fire bloomed in the darkness of space. The station's alarm began to scream. Other ships fled in all directions, not wanting any part of this fight. The bridge of Fang of Night Captain roared with rage. His ship shook around him. Damage reports flooded in from every section. What attacks us? He demanded. Who dares? The centers, his voice was hollow. Human Captain, 3 warships, they followed us. Possible. Humans do not pursue. They defend, they hide. They do not chase predators across space. These ones do. The controls himself. He pushed his damaged ship away from the station and jumped to faster than light speed. The human ships followed without hesitation. So the real chase began. 2 more days, the Ran and the humans followed. Tried every trick he knew. He flew through asteroid fields. He circled around dead stars. He doubled back on his own trail. Nothing worked. Every time he looked at his centers, the humans were still there, getting closer. Those days reading everything he could find about humans. What he learned made his blood run cold. He said on the second night, I understand now. We made a terrible error. Beak growled. He had not slept since the attack. Humans were prey because they have no natural weapons. But we were wrong. Humans are hunters. On their home world, they hunted creatures 10 times their size. They did not do it with claws or fangs. They did it with patience. They would chase an animal for days, never stopping, never resting, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They call it persistence hunting. Stared at him. Doing it to us right now, continued. They do not need to be faster. They do not need to be stronger. They just need to never stop. And Captain, they never stop. Their history is full of stories about humans who walked through deserts, climbed impossible mountains, crossed frozen wastelands. They do not give up. It is not in their nature. We'll give up when they reach space, said, but his voice was uncertain. They, Captain, we took a child. Their children are everything to them. They form bonds so strong that they will die to protect them. They will kill to protect them. They will do things that no sane species would do. It was quiet for a long moment. Then he sent a message to the High Council asking for help. Reply came back within hours, no. The message was brief and cruel, had caused the problem, would solve it or die trying. No ship would risk war with humans over one captain mistake. But alone on his bridge, reading the message again and again, he had been abandoned by his own people. He was alone against an enemy that did not know how to quit. And the holding cells felt the ship shaking. She heard the alarms. She saw the guards running with fear in their yellow eyes, and she knew. They are coming, she whispered to Pip. My veal are coming. Had been keeping track of the days by scratching marks on the wall. She had mapped the entire section of the ship she could see. She knew what guards were mean and what were just scared. She knew where the doors were weakest. She knew everything a 7-year-old prisoner could possibly know. And she was ready. The hammer received a message from Silent Wake. Jin's voice was calm and professional. You have a plan? When we corner them, my team will board their ship through a maintenance hatch. We go in quiet. We get her out before they even know we are there. And if they do know, asked. And we do it the loud way. Either way, we bring her home. It was his eyes. For a moment, he was not a soldier or a father or a hunter. He was just a man who missed his daughter more than he could say. Jin, he said quietly, thank you for everything. Save the thanks for after. We still have a fight ahead. The 4th day, the ship tried to call for help from an allied vessel. A smaller hunter ship answered and moved to block Duty's edge. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, the allied ship was broken and dark, spinning slowly into the void. Duty's edge had taken some damage but was still fighting strong. Its crew sent a simple message to the other human ships. Still here, still coming. Word of the battle spread quickly through the nearby systems. Other species heard about it and whispered to each other. The soft humans, the ones with no claws, had destroyed a hunter in direct combat, and they were still chasing. Things was changing in the galaxy. Something old and dark was waking up. The predators who had ruled the stars for centuries were beginning to understand a terrible truth. Humans were not prey. The ship had nowhere left to run. Of night floated at the edge of territory, its engines damaged, its weapons low on power. Behind it, the 3 human ships formed a half circle, blocking every route. The cold light of distant stars illuminated a scene that had never happened before in that part of the galaxy. Predators cornered the prey. The bridge captain stood alone. His crew watched him with fearful eyes. They had followed him across 40 worlds, hunting and taking whatever they wanted. Now they were trapped and their captain had no answers. And a message to the humans said finally, his voice was tired. Step forward, what should I say? Ask them what they want, perhaps we can negotiate. Message went out, the reply came back in seconds. It was not words, it was a picture. A small girl with braids and curious eyes smiling at the camera. Though the picture was a single line of text, you know what we want. It was his eyes, he understood now. There would be no negotiation, there would be no trade. The humans had come for their child and they would not leave without her. He almost admired them for it. Silent Wake, Li Jin gathered his team in the cargo bay. 12 soldiers in dark armor carrying weapons designed for close combat. They had trained for the moment. They had studied the ship's design. They knew exactly where the holding cells were. Listen carefully, Jin said. Our mission is simple, get in, find the child, get out. We do not start fights, we end them. If it gets in our way, we put them down quiet and fast. No noise, no warnings. We are ghosts until we have what we came for. Soldiers nodded. Their faces were calm. They had all done that before in other wars on other worlds, but this mission was different. This was not about territory or resources or politics. This was about a little girl who was waiting for her father. One more thing, Jin added. Park is coming with us. Soldier exchanged looks, was not military. He was an engineer, but Jin raised his hand. No, but she's his daughter. He has the right to be there, and trust me, knows how to handle himself. I have seen him in action. He will not slow us down. Forward from the shadows, he wore simple dark clothing and carried no weapons. He did not need them. His hands had built machines that could destroy cities. They could certainly handle a few. I'm ready, he said quietly. He smiled. It was a hunter's smile. Then let us go get your daughter. Filtration began at midnight ship time. Silent Wake slipped close to the vessel, hiding in the shadow of its damaged engine. A small shuttle detached and drifted toward a maintenance hatch that they had forgotten about. Hatch opened without a sound. Jim went first, then the rest of the team. They moved through dark corridors lit only by emergency lights. The ship was quiet. Most of the crew was focused on the human warships outside. They never expected anyone to come inside. First guard they met died without making a sound, appeared behind him like a shadow, and then the guard was on the floor. The team stepped over the body and kept moving. Strange. Part of him was horrified by what they were doing, but a larger part felt nothing at all. These creatures had taken his daughter. They had stolen her from her home and put her in a cage. Whatever happened to them now, they had earned it. Holding cells were on the lower deck. Jin's team moved through the ship like water flowing downhill, silent and unstoppable. 7 guards fell before any alarm was raised. By then, it was too late. Reached the holding cell door and placed a small device on the lock. It beat once, and the door slid open. And there she was, in the middle of her cell, holding hands with a small free creature. Her clothes were dirty and her hair was tangled, but her eyes were bright and fierce. When she saw the humans, she did not cry or scream. She simply smiled. I knew you would come, she said. Passed Jin and fell to his knees in front of the cell. His hands shook as he opened the door, then was in his arms, and he was holding her so tight that he thought his heart might break. I'm sorry, he whispered. I am so sorry it took so long. It's okay, she said, using the Korean word for father. I knew you were coming, I counted the days. Behind them, Jin was opening the other cells. 17 creatures from 12 different worlds stumbled out, blinking in confusion. They had expected to die. Instead, they found themselves looking at human soldiers who were offering them freedom. Everyone stay close, Jin ordered. We are leaving now. But they did not get far. Was waiting for them in the corridor. He stood alone, his claws extended, his yellow eyes burning with desperate rage. He had nothing left to lose. Think you can just take them, he growled. You think you can come into my ship, kill my crew, and walk away. Jin raised his weapon, but put a hand on his arm. Let me, he said. He stepped forward, placing himself between and the rescued prisoners. He had no weapon. He had no armor. He was just a man in dark clothing facing a predator twice his size. Laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. You, what can you do, soft one? I have killed 1,000 creatures stronger than you. Not answer, he simply waited. Attack. He was fast, faster than any human should have been able to track. His claws sliced through the air like knives, aimed at its throat. It was not there anymore. His training took over, moved like water flowing around the attack. His hand caught his arm and twisted. Bone cracked, screamed. Did not stop. He struck again and again, targeting joints and pressure points, breaking the predator down piece by piece. 30 seconds it was over. Lay on the floor, his arm broken, his legs useless. He stared up at the human with disbelief. He gasped, "You are prey, you are soft how?" Knelt down beside him, his voice was calm. "Never pray. We let you think that because it was easier than fighting, but you took my daughter. You woke something in me that I had put to sleep long ago." He stood up. "I am not going to kill you. Death would be too easy. You will live with this. You will remember the moment for the rest of your life. You will remember that you lost a soft human who did not even need a weapon." Turned his back on the broken captain and walked to his door. "Let us go home," he said, and smiled. "Best idea I have heard all day." Left the ship through the same hat they had entered. Behind them, lay in the quarter, listening to his prisoners escape, unable to do anything but remember. The humans had come for their child. They had won. The shuttle docked with the hammer just as the sun was rising on a distant world. It did not matter that they were far from any sun. For the humans aboard the ship, a new day had begun. The nightmare was over. Waiting at the airlock, she had not slept in 5 days. Her eyes were red and her hands would not stop shaking. When the door opened and she saw her daughter walking toward her, alive and whole, she fell to her knees and wept. And to her mother and threw her arms around her neck. "Oma," she said, using the Korean word for mother, "I'm home." To her daughter, like she would never let go, came behind them and wrapped his arms around both of them. For a long moment the three of them just held each other, family made whole again. On them the ship erupted in quiet celebration. Soldiers who had not smiled in days were laughing. The rescued prisoners were being taken to the metal bay, where doctors were waiting to help them. Admiral stood on the bridge, watching the ship drift helplessly in space. "What should we do with them?" his first officer asked. For a moment, "Nothing, leave them. Let them limp home and tell their people what happened. Let the story spread. That will be punishment enough." And spread it did. Days, news of the rescue had traveled across 100 worlds. The details grew with each telling, but the core remained the same. Humans had chased a hunting ship across the galaxy. They had boarded it, defeated its captain in single combat, and rescued every prisoner without losing a single soldier. They had done the impossible. Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in a great hall to discuss what they called the human question. For centuries, humans had been seen as soft, weak, a young species that built machines because they could not compete with narrow predators. Now, suddenly, everything was different. "You must understand what we are dealing with," the council leader said. "How did they do this? What makes them so dangerous?" Theories were offered, their technology, their numbers, their stubbornness, but it was an old ambassador who gave the true answer. He was one of the prisoners who had been rescued from the ship. His species had been enslaved by predators for generations. He had never known freedom until a human soldier opened his cage. "I'll tell you what makes them dangerous," he said. His voice was quiet, but the entire hall fell silent to listen. "It is not their weapons, it is not their ships, it is not even their bodies, which are soft and easily hurt." Paused, looking around at the assembled creatures. "Their hearts. When a human loves something, truly loves it, they become unstoppable. They will walk through fire. They will cross the empty spaces between stars. They will fight enemies 10 times their strength. And they will not stop, ever. They made a simple mistake. They took a human child. They thought they were stealing prey, but they were actually lighting a fire that could not be put out." The hall was silent. "Vice," the old ambassador continued, "is simple. Do not make enemies of the humans. Do not threaten what they love, because if you do, they will come for you, not today, not tomorrow, but someday. And when they arrive, there will be no force in the galaxy that can protect you." The council took his words seriously. New policies were written. New treaties were proposed. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to treat humans differently. Not as prey, not as predators, as something else entirely, something new. The captain was brought before the High Council in chains. He was broken in body and spirit. The council stripped him of his rank, his ship, and his honor. He would spend the rest of his life as a warning to others. More important than his punishment was the decree that followed. The High Council declared human space forbidden territory. Any vessel that entered would be considered rogue and would receive no help from the council. The hunting of humans was officially banned. And whispered a new saying to each other in the dark: "Do not hunt the hairless ones, they hunt back." On Seer 7, life slowly returned to normal. Back to school, she was quieter than before, more thoughtful. Sometimes she would stare out the window for long minutes, lost in memories that no child should have. But she was not broken, she was stronger. And to live with the Park family, adopted the small creature officially, and it became his constant companion. They did not speak the same language, but they understood each other perfectly. They had survived together. That created a bond that went beyond words. Evening, a few months after the rescue, his teacher asked her to share what she had learned from her experience. The class fell silent. Everyone knew what had happened. Everyone wanted to hear what she would say. But at the front of the room, small and serious. "Learn that monsters are real," she said. "They live out there in the dark between the stars. They take things that do not belong to them. They hurt people because they think they can." Paused. Her eyes found her father, who was watching from the back of the room. "But I also learned that monsters are only scary until you realize someone scarier lives you. Mike came for me. My woman never stopped looking. My whole colony came together to bring me home. The monsters thought I was alone. They were wrong. I was never alone." Night and sat in their garden watching play with Pip in the fatting line. The flowers had planted were blooming, filling the air with sweet scents. It was peaceful. It was home. "You think it will happen again?" asked quietly. "To some other family on some other world?" "About it? Maybe. The galaxy is big and there are many predators out there. But now they know. Now they have seen what happens when you take our children. The story will spread. It will become legend. And maybe, just maybe, it will make them think twice. And if it does not..." It was not a gentle smile. "We do it again, as many times as it takes, until every species in the galaxy understands that humans protect their own, always, no matter the cost." And her head on his shoulder, "I love you. I love you too." Watched their daughter laugh and play, safe and free, under stars that no longer seemed quite so dark. Away in the great archives of the Galactic Council, a new entry was added to the records. It described a species called humans. It listed their biology, their technology, their history. But at the end, there was a warning. It was written in red, the color of danger. "Do not provoke, do not threat, do not take what they love. These creatures are not prey, they are not predators. They are something the galaxy has never seen before. They are predators, and they never ever stop." File was closed, the warning remained. Somewhere in the vats of space, a little girl with braids and curious eyes slept peacefully in her bed, dreaming of flowers and stars and the family that had crossed the universe to bring her home. Humans had never been prey. Now, finally, the galaxy was about to find out what happened when you made them angry. Somewhere behind them, getting closer every hour, 3 human warships cut through the darks like knives. When he arrived, these monsters would learn what humans really were.